And now let's meet the fighters for our next contest. Making his way to the blue corner, Paul Lafond.
And what do we know about Paul Lafond?
He's a guy who kind of was trying to find his way. He was affiliated with some schools, but wasn't necessarily, representing them. He didn't have, dedicated coaching. Now he's with Coach Jeremy Hunt and the crew over at Sukti Muay Thai, and he really feels that's going to allow him to elevate his skill set. He feels that this is a good matchup for him with Braeton Lawton. Even though he's coming up 2 weight classes, he sees the stylistic matchup to his advantage. He's a taller guy. I think he feels he's got the same level of strength, and he just wants to outclass Braeton in this fight. And
you said he's gone up 2 weight classes?
He has. He initially fought Rich Cloudhammer at middleweight, which is 185 pounds. He weighed in yesterday at 240. So from his first fight to now, he's put on 60 pounds.
Now, what is that? I mean, aside from the sheer size, I guess that would translate into power. What other kind of effects does it have? I mean, you're slower.
You're going to be slower. You might have more power. You're not more than likely not going to have the same level of cardiovascular conditioning. But again, with him being as tall as he is and having the kind of length he does, it doesn't affect him as maybe somebody if the Leprechaun gained 60 pounds. If he was a little guy, then gained those 60 pounds over the course of 6 months, a year, whatever it was. That's not the case for Paul Lafond.
He looks good for plus 60. I mean, he doesn't look out out of shape.
He carries it well. He's a good 6'1", 6'2", so he's got a large frame to carry it with, and I think that's where he feels, comfortable with this fight.
The body frame appears to match his size, and we'll see if it translates into the strength against Braeton.
I was kind of surprised he fought at middleweight because he was such a big guy.
And now making his way to the red corner, Braeton Lawton.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like an easy weight cut because he's probably a guy that walks around. He walks around at about 230. So he got down to, you said one.
He was walking around probably like 205.
Okay.
210.
Okay.
But again, yeah, I mean, he's a bigger man. So really light heavyweight is more of his division. Braeton Lawton looking to learn from his last outing here. I would say if I was Braeton's coach, I would not allow my opponent to push him backwards. I watched some of the other tape. Bill Hill just kept pushing the pressure, forced Braeton Lawton to go backwards. There's a leprechaun. There we go. Not allowing him to really push forward and establish any sort of an attack. And if I'm Paul Lafond's corner, I'm saying attack. Chop the legs, heavy hands, corner him against the cage, bully him.
And you're saying that you don't know if you're saying Braeton will probably
Braeton walked backwards.
He wants that.
But Braeton walked backwards the whole last fight.
Okay.
Bill Hill was able to push him backwards all the rounds. And if I'm his coach, I'm telling him don't go backwards.
Easier said than done.
And going backwards is okay as long as you can execute some offense.
The upcoming contest on the card for Cage Wars 57, scheduled for 3 3-minute rounds. It is in our heavyweight division. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner. He weighed in yesterday at 240 pounds even. Representing Sukti Muay Thai out of Albany by way of Schenectady, New York, Paul Lafond.
Lafond is a
His
big
opponent
dude.
standing across the cage, fighting out of the red corner. He weighed in yesterday at 246 pounds. Representing Goju Ryuki out of Johnstown, New York, Braeton Tank Lawton. The man in charge of the action at the sound of the bell, Mr. Laszlo Huve.
Will, I'd be shocked if the fans weren't delighted with the finish of this fight, regardless of who it comes from. I think the finish is going to be electric, and I think this is going to be a banger.
This is the most focused I've seen Paul Lafond.
He looks scary. He looks like he wants to just run through him. But there you go. That's to your point. You were talking about Braeton, how he needs to come
forward. You know, and Paul did a good job following that kick up with a punch. I would be careful because Braeton's going to try to time that now with that right hand.
Nice job by Braeton.
Braeton definitely more willing to engage in this fight. I think he learned from that last fight, pushing Paul up against the cage. Paul doing a good job circling out, keeping that distance.
So, you know, you could try to handicap a fight based on body type, but until the fighters get in there and you actually see the skill and the movement, you just have no idea. But a nice job there. It looked like Lafond looked like he switched stances.
He did, and he used the shoulder to roll to avoid the punch. Ooh. Nice kick to the leg. Braeton felt that one.
And
And when Bill Hill did that in the last fight, it forced Braeton to switch stances. Let's see if he has to do that in this fight.
If I'm Braeton, I stay calm, composed, maybe try to counter-strike a little bit because Lafond is coming in, but Lafond is a bit careless with his strikes and somewhat inaccurate.
He is, and he's dropping that right hand. You saw Brandon look for that lead hook. If I'm Paul, I'm not reaching. Look for that uppercut.
Big action right in front of us.
He really feels like chopping that leg's going to pay dividends. He's got to keep those hands up, though. Nice job. He's got Braeton hurt against the cage. Watch the back of the head. Nice job with the uppercuts. Braeton showing some timidity here. This might be it.
Braeton's got to do something fast. Braeton's got to do something.
Oh, this might be it. He might be out. Oh, referee Laszlo Huve calls it. Round 1 TKO for Paul Lafond.
That was an electric flurry and finish, and Braeton stood up to as much of the punishment, but he just kept turning his back and wasn't really defending himself, and he took a couple of big shots. The referee did a great job with the stoppage there.
He took some big shots, and he tried to establish a jab, but it wasn't a hard jab. It was coming from his hips. You know, it wasn't a hard, straight jab to keep Paul at distance or even make Paul respect him at that point. You know, Paul did a good job attacking the leg and keeping the distance and just picking his punches. That was a nice job by Paul Lafond. We definitely have seen some growth in this young man.
Well, he looks big and strong, and obviously he'll continue to work. The technique could probably be a little bit more refined, but just from a raw power perspective, he looks good at that size. I think if Braeton Lawson could have done it all over again, I think he may have just circled the cage a little more, tried to stay away, stick and move. He's a tough kid. Braeton should be back.
He is. But again, credit to Paul Lafond that he was able to take him out. Bill Hill was not able to do that in the first round.
And we'll send it back inside the cage for our official decision.
How about a round of applause for these two great fighters and one hell of a fight, folks? Referee Laszlo Huve called a stop to the fight 1 minute 32 seconds into round number 1. For your winner by way of TKO, Paul Lafond.